Once upon a time there was a flock of sheep who lived on a hill. The grandma sheep looked after her flock very carefully, and when night time came, she made sure everyone was asleep. And soon they were all asleep, except one little sheep who couldn't sleep. Now this little sheep couldn't sleep because he was scared of the noises that would come from the mountains, past the hills, far, far away. Hard as he tried, he couldn't sleep, so the sheep began to cry. Grandma woke upon hearing the little sheep cry and asked him what was wrong. When the little sheep explained that it was the wolves in the hills, Grandma laughed and said, "There's no need to be afraid. There are no wolves anymore, and let me tell you why. Once upon a time, there was a girl called Little Red Riding Hood. She was walking through the woods one day, on the way to visit her grandma. Completely unaware of the wolf that was following behind her. Knowing the girl was going to her grandma's, the wolf decided to set a trap, and he took a shortcut to the old woman's house. Later that evening, and the wolf had found his way to Grandma's house. Waiting until she was asleep, the wolf broke in and attacked Grandma as she slept. The wolf ate Grandma up, but was careful not to eat her clothes, as he'd need them later for his plan. To dress as the old woman in order to trick Red Riding Hood, in the hope of eating the girl as well. Soon Miss Hood knocked at the door and promptly commented on the wolf's large ears, which was all the better to hear her with, and her large eyes, all the better to see her with, and her large teeth, which was all the better to eat her with. But Miss Hood was too quick for the wolf, and had run away into the forest, with the wolf following close behind. Further in the wood, a huntsman was cutting down a tree when he heard the howl of the wolf, and decided to investigate. Red Riding Hood ran past the huntsman, who began to fight with the wolf. Although the creature was strong, he was no match for the huntsman's axe. He had saved himself and Little Red Riding Hood by killing the wolf. After that day, the huntsman and Miss Hood were never bothered by wolves again, and they lived happily ever after. "So you see," explained Grandma, "there aren't any more wolves at all. So go to sleep, there's nothing to be afraid of." But the little sheep simply didn't believe her. Although frightened, the sheep thought, if it isn't wolves in the mountains, I'm going to find out for myself what's living there. Finally, the little sheep reached the top of the mountain. He looked around, but couldn't see anything. Although the little sheep was terrified at first, the wolf soon explained that it meant no harm, and it was sorry it had been frightening the sheep. But it had not been howling because it was hungry, but because it was lonely. So the sheep asked where are all the other wolves, and the wolf looked very sad, and decided to tell the sheep her story. That once upon a time there were two wolves that lived completely alone, and had never seen another wolf. Then, one day, they met. After that, they were both blissfully happy, until one day, one of the wolves went off to the woods. The other wolf waited and waited, but he never came back. So the wolf explained that she'd been waiting ever since, but knew he'd never come back. She'd heard the stories of the huntsman and the girl and the grandma. Then the wolf asked if the sheep would stay with her tonight, as she got so terribly lonely. The sheep thought for a moment how horrible it would be to be all alone, and said yes.